Hey friends, it's March 14th, 2025, and we're well over 3 years into Russia's invasion into Ukraine, and you guys continue to pray, you continue to raise up prayer, you continue to care. And the key elements today to pray for is, as always, we're praying from hope. The hope that we have is that after all the attempts to bully and push Ukraine into a peace that is no peace, a peace that leads to more destruction, we're in the middle of some amazing movements. But let us not grow weary of doing good, but believe that in due time we'll receive a harvest. And so what's happening? One of the things that's happening is that, as many of you know, the U.S. has has put forward the idea of a ceasefire for 30 days as a first step towards negotiations. Ukraine instantaneously agreed to it. They actually were the ones who initiated the idea. And Russia refused to respond, and then gave their initial response was absolutely no, they're not going to do that. And I had already shared that with you. That was probably going to happen simply because although Chemezov's camp, the oligarchs' camp in the Kremlin, really wants a peace at any cost right now, Patrushev, who heads the FSB KGB types, he is holding out for, at the bare minimum, for the victory of pushing Ukraine out of Kursk. There's a couple reasons. One is because that gives more leverage in the negotiations. It takes away a key trump card of the Ukrainians, but also it's a PR victory. So it doesn't look like Russia is capitulating. Well, so as a result, they were holding off, hoping that in the last 24 hours they would have been able to push Ukraine out of Kursk. They've managed to push, by the U.S. removing all intelligence, they did a massive push over the last 72 hours. And as a result, they actually did push Ukraine back to about about a third. They lost about a third of Kursk. And what's happened is they are, but they did at the same time, they retreated in such a way that was really effective. They did massive hits on Russian bases. They did massive hits on Russian artillery pieces. They also did some feints, some forward attacks that allowed them to retreat in such a way that it wasn't a rout. Now, some of you heard Trump say, oh, they're surrounded. This could be the worst massacre in modern history. It's not true. It's simply not true. He's trying to set the grounds that Ukraine would be slaughtering their troops by leaving them there. That's the narrative, because he's trying to give Russia what they're asking for. He's trying to give them what they're, and basically, again, flipping it that Ukraine is killing its own soldiers. You see how it flips so quickly. We should not be surprised. I've said this again and again. Trump uses words as weapons, not as ways to convey truth. It's just, I mean, if the fact that he'll say one thing and say the exact opposite over and over again is just evidence of that. That's not a political point. So what we are praying for right now is that Ukraine will continue to stand. And one of the signs of what Russia is demanding is the fact that the French foreign minister felt the need in the last 24 hours to declare that they will in no ways back any proposal that calls for the demilitarization of Ukraine. Guys, how did we get here in the first place? Was the pressure to demilitarize Ukraine. That's what left Ukraine vulnerable to Russia coming in. Why would Russia demand demilitarization? Do not let the arguments that, oh, it's about having a powerful weapons on our border. That's not the point. That's not what has driven Russia to attack. But continue pray for that pressure to unite Europe in backing Ukraine, to unite, to that Trump will increasingly understand that that Zelensky and Ukraine are not to be bullied and it won't work, so that continue to pressure on Russia, because he's also come out publicly with what has been being said behind closed doors, that if Russia does not agree to this ceasefire, that they will double down on sanctions. They'll double down on sanctions compliance. In other words, make the sanctions work, and put pressure to drive the price of Russian oil to below $35 a barrel, which is catastrophic. You got to understand the present horrific budget, which it was set for $60 a barrel. $35 a barrel is catastrophic. It's and because of how much oil and gas makes up of the Russian economy, it's well over 50%. It means a 50% loss in revenue for the state. And so, let's pray, that Trump is serious about putting that pressure, and B, pray that Ukraine will hold fast, that they'll be able to dig into their positions in Kursk and hold on to that, because it really is a very key negotiating position. But continue to pray, as we have throughout this time, that Trump's cabinet, his people, will look to find alternatives, look to find creative ways around this. And I'll say it again, Daniel, I believe, negotiated the fall of Babylon. Babylon was, under Belshazzar and his father Nabonidus, had descended into chaos. They were nothing like Nebuchadnezzar, and they'd shoved Daniel out to pasture, but they brought him back just to interpret when the hand wrote on the wall. And Cyrus's troops were surrounding, the Medes and Persians were surrounding Babylon, but there was no sign it was going to capitulate. But history tells us that the gates of Babylon were open from the inside. And you see a bloodless transfer of power, in which we see Daniel on the backside elevated to a position of authority in the Medes and Persians empire. Let's just pray that there is some conversations with Daniel's. Why? Because a bloodless transfer of power, a bloodless transfer to a system that is for truth and justice. Because if there is any other kind of transfer of power, it's going to lead to chaos. And without a transfer of power, the present form of Russia will simply continue to cause horrific horror everywhere in their lives of their neighbors and in the world at large. So guys, please continue to pray, believe, you raise up hope. But I can't say it enough, guys. This is a crucial hour for the church in Ukraine. They are exhausted. They are despairing. We don't know where our hope is until that hope is disappointed. And there was a real hope in America, that the recent actions of the last month have completely devastated that hope. But you know what? Our hope is in the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So pray that the church will be able to reconnect to the hope that only comes from Jesus, only comes from the Lord. And they would continue to be able to serve with radical faith in the middle of the worst of what the enemy is doing, that they would rise up, that they would be encouraged. Pray that they would find partners, people who believe in them, that would help them financially, help them spiritually, and because they're the ones who are going to bring light into darkness, especially and on the backside of this war. So please be praying for them. If you want to help our friends Vladimir and Lilia, they desperately need your help. Go to ariselife.org/help Ukraine. I'll try to put the link in there. So grateful for so many of you who have given. We were able to send over more than $2,500 the other day. And so guys, we desperately need your help. Go ahead, go there. You can find out more. But also our friends John and Tanya in Lynch in Ivano-Frankivsk. They're doing an incredible work there and in Kharkov and throughout Ukraine. But please consider getting involved and praying. So we love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys.